Hello, hello. I'm Casey,
I'm Fallon.
and this is
Render the Darkness.
Ooh. Fun fact for this episode is that the signature red soles that Louis Vuitton has on their shoes was actually inspired by a drawing from Andy Warhol.
Okay. I only say that because none of that made any sense to me except for the Andy Warhol.
You don't know about Louis Vuitton's shoes, the high heels, the red soles, the fashion icon.
I do not.
Shame. For shame.
But I'm sure a lot of people out there do.
I'm just gonna say that I have no doubt in my mind that whoever is watching this is absolutely shocked staring at your plaid and knowing that you did not know who Louis Vuitton was.
I know, right? It's just like, why? Yeah.
There's no way this lady doesn't know who Louis Vuitton is.
That's funny.
That's my fun fact. That's it. At least you know who Andy Warhol was.
Yeah, I know who that is. But like I said, I mean,
that's half the battle.
There we go. Okay, so this is the 4th episode out of Colorado in our 50-state series. This is the story of the sad and senseless murder of Warren Barnes, who was also known as the Reading Man. Warren Bruce Barnes was born on May 19, 1951 in Grand Junction, Mesa County, Colorado. His parents were John and Elva, and he had 3 brothers, James, Vernon, and Dale. There's not a lot known about Warren's life other than he loved to feed and watch the birds, he loved the outdoors, and he loved to read. He got the nickname the Reading Man because of his love of books, and people would often give him books, food, and drinks. Now, people described him as a very gentle and quiet person. In some sources, it says that he was homeless, but in a documentary I watched called Parents Discover Teen Son's Horrifying Secret by Explore With Us, Monique, who had become friends with Warren, had actually gave him a chair to read his books by her boutique, said that he did have a home, and he was paying to rent a room, and that he had also had a job at People Ready, which was a temp agency. Now, on February 28th, 2021, police received a phone call about a car being in the water at 2 a.m. The woman said that she had already contacted a tow company to see if they would be willing to get the car out, but that company really didn't want to because the person said they didn't want to get wet. At the time, the police were making light of the situation because the driver, Brian Cohey, didn't get hurt in the incident, and they were, kind of joking around because they don't normally see a car floating in the Colorado River. The mother of the driver was saying that her son was trying to angle his car to get off the boat dock, but didn't do it correctly and ended up in the water. And after talking to his mother, the officer decided to talk to Brian to see what had happened. When they got to the truck to talk to him, his dad kind of explained what happened and said that he was the owner of the life jacket program at the boat ramp. The officers then asked Brian why he was there, and he said, he just wanted to get away and think, so he parked on the boat ramp. He said that he thought it would be pretty easy to get back out, but wasn't able to and ended up in the water. The officers went back to talk to his mother again, and she asked if she could take him home to get some dry clothes, and the officer said that since it wasn't a car crash, then yeah, she could. She then told the officer that they would come back after dropping him off at home. And when Brian's parents got back, there was a tow company there removing the car, and when the car got closer to the bank, one of the officers noticed something on the bumper under the license plate. The officer went to talk to the parents and asked if they were sure that Brian didn't get hurt because they found something on the bumper that resembled blood. Brian's mom called him and asked, if he had any injuries, and he said no. She told him that they found what looked like blood on the bumper and asked again if he was sure he wasn't cut or anything. And again, he would say no, and he didn't know how the blood could have gotten on the car. The officers did have some suspicion about that substance, but they still released the car to the Coheys. Now let's talk a little bit about Brian. I couldn't find a lot of information about him either, but he was born on January 10th, 2002. I wanted to say 2022. His dad's name is Brian, and his mom's name is Terry. Now, his mom would say that he had health issues, and he had been taking medication since he was 5. He had been diagnosed with autism, ADHD, and anxiety. He was also struggling with depression from what his attorney would later say.
What's HDHD?
ADHD. Did I say A?
You said HDHD.
ADHD, sorry. Now, he really liked serial killer movies, and because of how much he liked Jeffrey Dahmer, the kids at his school nicknamed him Dahmer. Now, in 2018, a huge red flag happened. Just to let you know, there is mention of animal cruelty here. Brian killed a cat and kept the head in his home for 3 days before discarding it. Now, on March 1st, 2021, the police were called back to the boat dock. Monique, who owned the bridal shop, called to report that Warren Barnes was missing. The police asked how she knew him, and she said that he would come by every day and sit by her shop and read. She said the last time that she seen him was that Saturday, and that she had told him that she would see him tomorrow, and he said okay, so he planned on being there that day. She also said that someone had found his wallet and called his job, but she said where they found his wallet was in a place that he would have never gone. And the officers then asked what made her report him missing, and she would explain because people already called her asking if she had seen him, and in the entire 4 years of Warren working there, he has never missed a single day of work. The officers asked her who had found the wallet, and she said the person who runs, quote, the life jacket thingy. So if you remember, Brian's dad owned the life jacket program at the dock. He was the one who found the wallet, but he had actually found the wallet in the car that Brian had accidentally driven into the water. Now, in some sources, they say that Brian's mother started getting suspicious, and others say that she went to go clean his room, but they all ended up with her going into his closet. She then ran to the phone and called her husband and told him that he needed to come home. When he got there, she told him what she had found, and they sent a text to Brian saying that they needed the car for his brother to practice driving. When Brian got home, she called 911. Now, when Terry was talking to the 911 operator, she told him that she thought she had found a human head in a plastic bag in her son's closet. He asked why she thought that, and she said, quote, because it looked like it and I saw an ear. The police go to the residence and find Brian in the front yard with his dad. One of the officers told Brian that his parents had some concerns with something they had found in his room, and he said, quote, I believe so. And the officer asked what it was, and he said, quote, a human head and hands. And the officers had him go with another officer and sit in the back of the patrol car. And he is really cooperative, acting like what was happening was not that big of a deal at all. Now, the officers then asked if they could go into the house to verify what the mom had found. And the dad said yes and tells him that it's in the sink and he hasn't actually seen it yet. When he got to the sink, he opened the bag, and inside was in fact a decaying human head. The officer that was with Brian was talking to him, and he was telling her that he hadn't been feeling good the past few days, saying that he had been feeling extremely anxious. She then proceeded to take him to the police station, but on the way there, Brian made a very chilling comment. When they passed the bridge, he said, quote, it was under this bridge. But the officer didn't respond to the comment. Brian was taken to an interrogation room while his parents were taken to separate rooms to tell the officers again what happened. Now, his mom talked about the incident at the boat ramp and the possible blood on the bumper, saying that she thought it could have been from the surgery that he had actually had on his armpit, and maybe it opened up during the accident. She had also said that he took a special effects class, and he said that maybe it was from one of the canisters of the fake blood that had broken in his trunk. His dad said that when he was cleaning the car out is when he found the wallet, and he had found a large knife in the glove box. He asked Brian about the wallet, and he said that he found it on the dock, but he forgot about it. His dad said that he had asked who Warren was, and he said that he only knew one Warren, and that he went to school with him, and he swore he did not know who that Warren was. Now, the investigators, Pete Berg and Lisa, hopefully I say this correctly, Norcross, spoke to Brian, and the interview would last around 2 hours. They read him his Miranda rights, and he agreed to speak with them. The officers talked to him about the school and his job, because verifying that he could handle responsibility, it would be hard for him to say that he didn't know right from wrong in front of a jury. And while they were talking, the officers asked Brian how he got there, meaning, how did you get to the station? Did you use a car or a bus? And Brian just flat out, with no emotion whatsoever, says, quote, I murdered someone. Now, the officers ask him to try and remember everything that happened that day, and he says that since he knows that he's going to jail for 15, 20 years anyway, there's really no reason to fight. Now keep in mind, he is 19 years old, and the whole time he is giving his confession, he has a huge smile on his face, sometimes laughing and making jokes, and even goes as far as to act out part of the murder for the detectives. Now he starts by giving the date of when the murder happened. On February 27th, he says that he just felt like driving around, and he says that he's not in the best state of mind and that he had a major depression disorder. So he isn't really thinking about anything positive while he's driving. He says that he has been driving around for a while when he came to a bridge. He says that when he gets to the bridge, he sees something very large wrapped in a tarp. He said to himself, quote, "That's a homeless person." He then grabbed his knife and put on 3 pairs of gloves because they are thin and can break, leaving prints everywhere. He then said that he went up to the tarp and pulled it back and stabbed the man in the neck. He says that the man asked why he was doing it, but he just kept stabbing his neck, and he did it so much that by the time he had actually killed the man, he had nearly decapitated him. And he would also say how easy it was and that he was growling during the attack. And he kept saying, quote, "Stinky, dirty, dirty, stinky." But he didn't really know why because he said he didn't smell anything bad. Now, the detective asked if he was worried that someone would see him since it was so close to the road, and he says that because it was so dark that all that they would see if they stopped and looked would be him holding a 12-inch bloody knife, wearing gloves and a mask, which was an actual Michael Myers mask. He then proceeds to say that he took his clothes off and, quote, "cut open his belly to see his guts." He goes into further detail about what he does to Warren post-mortem. It gets a little graphic, so I didn't want to go into full detail, but you can watch the documentary to get all the details, and I will link it in the show notes. Now, he then goes on to talk about what he does to cover up his crime, so he doesn't get caught. He says that he washes clothes that he had committed the murder in twice to remove any evidence. Again, something that can be used to prove that he knew what he was doing was wrong. He then draws a diagram on the wall of the crime scene telling them where they can find more of Warren's body. After receiving this information, they sent some officers to the scene, and just as Brian said, they had found more of his body scattered around the area, but not all of it. He then tells the detective that the head and hands started to smell, so he planned on getting empty paint buckets. He was going to put the head in one and the hands in another and throw them in different locations. He then told the detectives how he cut the arms from the body and how easy it was, and the detectives asked if he had actually had another plan or if that was the first plan all along and why he had actually done it. Now, Brian didn't really answer the first question, but he said, quote, "because I always wanted to know what it felt like to cut up someone." The detective then asked if he was worried about leaving evidence, and he said, quote, "Totally, totally." He would then say that no offense to the officers, but he thought that most of them didn't really care about the high-risk people like homeless or prostitutes. So he went out looking for someone to fit that description. He was then asked if he had done anything like this before, and he said no. And then they asked him if he had hurt animals or practiced on them, and he said yes. He had killed a cat on Halloween in 2018. Again, it does go into detail about what he'd done, but I didn't want to include that. Now, later in the interrogation, he told the detectives that his parents had actually found something else in his room a year earlier. He had made an actual murder kit with knives, shovels, hammers, zip ties, and duct tape. He had convinced them that he was going to use it for something that wasn't violent, but they told him that if he didn't get rid of it, they were going to call the police. Now, the detectives asked him what his plan was for the kit, and he said that he had actually planned on picking up a prostitute, tying her up, and he was going to torture her. They asked why he didn't go back to that plan instead of doing what he did, and he said that it was too risky because a kit had already been seen once. Here, Brian tells the truth about why he was really at the boat dock. And he said that he was unable to sleep that night because his gloves had ripped, and he was afraid that he may have left a print behind. He gets into his car, goes to the bridge, gets Warren's body, puts him in the trunk, and takes him to the river. He says he backs up to the water, takes the body out, and pushes him down the river with his foot. When he tried to leave, the car slid into the water. Now, at this point, he is worried that he is going to die of hypothermia and makes a joke saying, quote, "This is what I'm going to be remembered for, dying of hypothermia in a botched attempt to hide a body." Now, after the interrogation was over, Brian thought that, he was so great for cooperating so well with the officers. When he was being escorted to the booking department, Brian smiled at Detective Berg and said, quote, "I feel like Hannibal Lecter right now." Now, in January 2022, Brian pled not guilty by reason of insanity, and he was given an evaluation. And remember, what he said about being able to hide the evidence of the crime and how he had the gloves and the knife in the car ready, and how he put on 3 pairs of gloves to keep from leaving prints behind. The doctors would ask him, how he felt about the murder. And he said that it was something that just happened and it sucked, but it did happen. Now, doctors asked him, what sucked about it, and he would say because he was locked up and he couldn't see his friends or his family and that he missed the internet and his video games. Now, Brian would eventually be found sane, and he was found guilty of first-degree murder, 1 count of tampering with evidence, and 2 counts of tampering with a deceased human body. He was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole, and it is in the, hopefully I say this correctly, Buena Vista Correctional Complex in Colorado. Now, there is a permanent metal art memorial that was put in next to Monique's bridal shop. It was crafted to reflect that what Warren loved the most to read. Now, it says, "Warren was here, Sparks Fly Studio, 2021. Hmm. So that is a story of the senseless murder of Warren Barnes, the reading man. And I'm sorry that one was a lot shorter than I thought it was going to be.
No, this is actually a really pretty recent case. I actually just watched a whole thing on this case.
Oh.
So.
That's why you didn't say anything.
No, I already. Yeah, I know. Sorry. Because I was like, oh, that's one of those cases where you can't really interrupt it because it's just kind of like one consecutive line of events.
Yeah.
So it's hard to. There's not really a lot of backstory. It just kind of is the crime, because he was so young. So,
Yeah.
There wasn't really a lot to jump in on.
Yeah, there wasn't really a whole lot that was really out there about Warren or Brian, to be honest. I mean,
but I did just watch a whole thing on this case. It is pretty new, like not new, but it's pretty current.
Yeah, it's. Like I said, he did it in.
And poor Warren. Like poor Warren.
Yeah, that's sad. I mean, they say.
I did like I remember seeing I remember watching the interview for the lady who owned the store that he sat out in front of every day or whatever.
Yeah.
And, like he was genuinely cared about. Like he was genuinely a accepted and respected and loved member of the community that he was a regular in.
Yeah, everybody loved him.
So that awful. I mean, it's awful regardless of who it is, but it's awful that somebody so well established amongst the community.
Yeah. And like I said, there is more information in that documentary. Like I said, I didn't use all of it, of course.
Right.
But I mean, if you want to know more about it or more details, definitely go watch that. I mean, it's very informative, and you actually get to see his face, and he is so soulless. I mean, he laughs, he giggles. Mm-hmm. It gave me the.
I think this is one of those cases that really proves the boundaries between insanity and intentional. Mm-hmm. Like, because there wasn't really a teetering on this one. Like, this kid knew exactly what he was doing. He knew exactly what he wanted to do. It was highly premeditated. It was highly thought out. So the fact that you have to assume that someone who is capable of doing something so depraved has some level of insanity in them. But when you are backing that with such a high and strong intent, it's hard to take that journey down that road.
Yeah.
And with him being as young as he is, it's one of those really fine lines on that. Like which direction you should go. Which one is the right call.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like I said, I mean, I know, like I said, I didn't put it in here, but, they were talking about that, he was thinking about this stuff for years.
Right.
So, I mean.
Yeah, it's definitely, I mean, again, like I said, I think that no matter who you are, to do something at this level of inhumanity, you have to have some form of a break somewhere in there. But at the same token, when it's so intentional and thought out and planned, you have to remove that aspect of it entirely because, that's the whole point of murder is, being charged with murder is, the intent.
Yeah.
And the intent was definitely there.
For sure.
So, hopefully, he never sees the light of day.
I hope not.
poor Warren doesn't ever get that opportunity, so
No,
I don't feel like Brian should either. That's my personal opinion.
mine as well.
But yeah, this is definitely a recent case. That's why I was so quiet. I was just gonna kind of let you get through it, so I could kind of just touch base with how you feel about it at the end.
Yeah, like I said, while I was watching it the entire time, I just could not believe the way that he was acting.
Oh, it was heartless. Like he did not have any remorse. In fact, he almost made it sound in the interviews like if given the opportunity, he would do it again.
Oh yeah, I think he would.
Like I think he definitely expressed that he enjoyed it. I think he definitely conveyed that it wasn't something that he even necessarily he knew it was wrong legally, but I don't think he thought it was wrong morally.
Yeah.
Based on how he acted.
Yeah.
So very sad case. Rest in peace, Warren, and I hope Brian never sees the light of day.
Agreed.
But thank you for covering that case because, like I said, just watched it. It's a very interesting case. It definitely needs to be told and heard, and Warren needs to be remembered. He met a very unfortunate and tragic end at the hands of a very depraved individual. I mean, this is a case of somebody who died literally for nothing.
Yeah.
Just for somebody else's sick fantasy. Literally the only reason. Mm-hmm. But it's a good case. Thank you for sharing.
You're welcome.
No problem. It's our case for today, I guess.
Yeah.
Your case. This is your ending segment. End it away. Indy.
Thank you for being here with us. We appreciate
it. Yeah. Go on.
He's the talker. I'm the tech person.
Okay. Talk. All right, I'll take over. All right, so this was actually our last case out of Colorado. We're going to be moving right on over to Connecticut next. I will be covering a couple of cases out of that. She'll be covering a case out of that as well. And then we'll bebop right on over to the state after that, and then the state after that, all in alphabetical order, which means we're just in the C's, which means you have plenty of time to get in your recommendations or suggestions or your thoughts and opinions, anything in the manner. We will respond. We respond to you every time, no matter what, even if it takes us a little bit. Usually we're pretty immediate with that, though. We love to interact and engage with our listeners and the audience and just people out there in general. We also love to help support other creators. So if you have a YouTube channel that you're looking for subscribers on or boosting on, we'll be happy to help you there. Same with any of your podcast stuff or Spotify or anything like that that's more of a listening platform than a watching platform. We'll help you there. TikTok will help you get, we'll follow you there. So we're here to support creators supporting other creators. So hopefully there's some people out there that feel the same way. And if you do, please reach out. Maybe we can scratch each other's backs, for lack of better words. We got hands. We got nails. We'll scratch. And that's about it. That's all I got. Other than that, if you like what we're doing, please give us a like, a subscribe, a share, tell a friend.
Tell everybody.
You can tell everybody. Anyway, that's our time. Thank you guys for hanging out. We hope to see you on the next one. We are Render. You're doing that a little soon. A little premature. A little excited to end the show there. Tyler wants to leave. We are Render the Darkness.